I remember waking up on day 4 of recovery, looking in the mirror and thinking, what the hell have I done? I didn't recognize the person looking back at me. My face was peak swelling. I couldn't feel my chin. I couldn't smile. I was so swollen. Every time I tried to drink anything, it was just pouring down me. The only thing I could do was laugh. Now, I had my jaw surgery in 2021, and I've talked about it here and there over the years, but I wanted to do an update now that I'm 5 years post-op, because it's still something that I'm asked about all of the time. So I want to condense everything into this podcast episode today. We're going to be talking about the tools I used for recovery, how long I had to have a soft food diet for, how bad the pain was, do I have full feeling back, did I get any nerve damage? Everything you guys have asked me, I'm going to answer in today's video. Like I said, I had the surgery in 2021. At the time, I was actively posting on YouTube, and I posted all through my surgery, not talking about it. I mean, I did post some videos with updates and whatnot, but I was still filming my regular content. And looking back at some of those videos and how swollen I was, and just the adult braces of it all, it's a little bit of a hard watch, honestly. I mean, I'm proud of myself for pushing through that and not being embarrassed to continue to share, but I looked pretty ridiculous, not gonna lie. So whether you already have your jaw surgery scheduled, whether you currently have your braces on, or maybe this is just something you're considering and trying to figure out if it's right for you, I know that watching these videos and listening to other people's experiences really helped me to decide if it was right for me and really helped me to understand what to expect. So this video is going to be for you no matter where you are in your jaw surgery journey. So let's start off by taking it way back to the beginning and talking about when I first knew I needed this surgery and why I needed it. And just a heads up, I'm gonna put timestamps in the description box down below, both on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you wanna skip ahead and if there's a specific question that you want answered, you could do that. So the first time I heard of jaw surgery, the first time it came across my desk, if you will, I was in middle school and I went to the orthodontist. We were talking about what needed to be done in my mouth, and there was quite a bit. I'm gonna put a photo up on the screen, so if you're just listening, turn on the video for a second because this is gonna show you what I was working with to begin. Basically, what they told me was my top jaw was too narrow, my teeth were overcrowded, my two canine teeth, they were in front and up. I had a gap in my front 2 teeth, and then my upper jaw was too far back. My lower jaw was slightly too far forward and a little bit crooked. There was a lot going on. So my teeth looked an absolute mess. The first thing they told me that I needed to do was to get a palate expander, just to widen my upper jaw so that all my teeth could fit in. And then they said braces to straighten it out. But beyond that, I really needed to have jaw surgery if I wanted to correct my bite and for things to line up. So the way it was sitting, my top and my bottom teeth, like usually your top teeth should sit just in front of your bottom teeth, but mine sort of met at the tips, but didn't quite touch. So there was a little bit of a gap in between. And I mean, thinking back at the time, I obviously had no idea what was going on. I don't even remember being that self-conscious about my teeth, but looking at old photos, I'm like, wow, there was a lot going on. So basically what they told me was that because of the way my jaw was positioned, my back teeth were clashing more than they should be, and eventually they would start to chip if I didn't have the surgery. Also, the gap in between my top and bottom teeth meant that anything that was thin, I couldn't really bite through it. And this wasn't something that I realized at the time, but as I got older and didn't have the surgery yet, I realized there were certain foods that I couldn't bite through. So anything that was like spring rolls that had thin ingredients, or like a sushi roll, I would bite into it, but my teeth, because they didn't meet, they wouldn't go through the food entirely. So what would end up happening is I'd take a bite of a spring roll and basically pull all the ingredients out of it. And this is something that for a long time I didn't realize was due to my jaw. I just could not figure out why I couldn't eat properly. So what would end up happening, even with like other foods, is I wasn't really biting through them. I would like bite into them and tear. And I mean, for the most part, that was okay, but it wasn't ideal and it was a little bit difficult, and something that I realized as I got older was quite annoying. I mean, I totally could have lived eating like that the rest of my life, but let me tell you, it did make a huge difference. So the orthodontist originally told me that I could have braces to straighten out my top teeth, but I couldn't have this jaw surgery until I turned 18, until I finished growing. So had braces in middle school. I think I might have had them for like a year, probably not, like a year. Once I had the palate expander, which if you aren't familiar with palate expanders, I can remember that being a nightmare. Basically, it's a bar that goes across the top of your mouth, and every day my mom would go in it with a little wrench and she'd crank it and it would push your jaw out like a millimeter or a fraction of a millimeter, a very small amount, but it would create a lot of tension. And basically over time you would do that and it would get your jaw to increase to the size it needed to be for all of your teeth to fit in perfectly. Now, another thing that I didn't realize was caused by my jaw being misaligned, but that I realized after the surgery, was that it was pinching my nose. My nostrils, I guess, were a little bit pinched, so I couldn't breathe as easily through my nose, which again, at the time I didn't really notice, but let me tell you, one of the first things I noticed when I woke up from that surgery was how easy it was to breathe through my nose. So that's something not a lot of people realize, is the connection between, I guess, our mouth, our nose, other things on our face, and how your jaw being misaligned can impact more than you realize. Also, just because of the way my jaw was positioned, I couldn't really close it comfortably. Like I said, my bottom jaw was like kind of, I don't know, bigger on one side than the other. So it just wasn't comfortable to have my jaw closed. So like my jaw would hang open. And this is something my oral surgeon told me when I was going through the process. I didn't even realize this, but I had trained my lips to be shut, but my jaw would be hanging down. So I just basically like have my mouth like that, but my lips shut. Whereas now I can keep my jaw closed and it be comfortable. A side effect of this was when I was sleeping, I was a mouth breather, because I guess the combination of my jaw not closing comfortably, not being able to breathe through my nostrils clearly, meant that I was breathing through my mouth when I was sleeping. As the years went on, I realized how important nasal breathing is. And if this is something that's totally new to you, basically when you breathe through your nose, nitric oxide is created, and this is great for reducing inflammation and a whole bunch of other side effects basically related to your metabolism and just things functioning properly and just red blood cells getting around your system. When you breathe through your mouth, you're not getting that nitric oxide. So you're not getting all the benefits that come along with that. And that can make a huge difference to your health. So before I had the surgery, I actually kind of caught on to this and started learning more about nasal breathing and realized that mouth taping was something I could do, taping my mouth shut while I was sleeping in order to force nasal breathing. And this is something that I still recommend to people, jaw surgery or not. If you are a mouth breather, if you're someone who snores, mouth taping, life-changing. Now, because I've had my jaw surgery and I can actually keep my mouth closed comfortably now, I don't have to mouth tape, which is amazing. So as I said before, I was told that I could have the surgery when I turned 18. But by the time my 18th birthday rolled around, I was finished high school, I was going to college, the thought of getting braces again, the thought of going through this surgery, it just didn't appeal to me, and I didn't really realize how much my jaw was impacting, I guess, my quality of life. Like I said, all of these things were something I could have lived with, but they were a huge inconvenience, and I am so much more comfortable eating now. Like, I used to get so paranoid about eating sushi in front of people because I just knew I couldn't eat it properly, and I didn't really realize for a few years why I couldn't eat it properly. That might sound silly, to some people, but it honestly just makes such a difference. And also the other issue was going to be my back teeth were going to start chipping because of how they were clashing together. So that is not something to take lightly. I know a lot of people have, I guess, a more severe starting point than I had, but I don't think that discounts any of the benefits I experienced. So by the time my 18th birthday rolled around, I wasn't even thinking about getting this surgery. I was like, no, not gonna do it, whatever. Years went on and I started to realize, like I said, how this was impacting me and how I maybe should have gotten the surgery. So during COVID, I kind of thought to myself, okay, I'm having to wear a mask all the time. I'm spending a lot of time at home. Why don't I start looking into this? Now, if you guys don't know, I'm from Canada originally. I'm from Toronto. That's where I had my orthodontics in middle school. But now, and for the last 10 years, I've lived in South Australia. Anyways, during this time, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm not traveling. This is probably a good time to start looking into getting the surgery. I started to toss up the idea of having to have braces for 2 years, and I thought, okay, let's get the ball rolling. So at that point, I think I had the surgery when I was 27 or 28. So I was in my late 20s at that point. And I went to an oral surgeon, started going through the process. He basically told me everything that needed to be done. I would have to have braces for 6 months before the surgery and then 6 months after the surgery. The option to not have braces, this is what I was told, wasn't really an option because they wanted your teeth to be in the exact position for the surgery. And just because everything is so precise, things like Invisalign weren't an option. I've seen other people talk about their jaw surgery and they've used Invisalign or they didn't need braces. I don't know. What I was told was that it was the best way and that I didn't really have a choice. And honestly, they weren't that bad. Like I said, looking back, I'm a bit more, oh my God, I can't believe that that is what I looked like and I was filming content and just doing all of that. But honestly, at the time, they didn't bother me that much. I didn't have any issues with like self-confidence. In the end, I think I had them on for 13 months, so just over a year, which really is no time at all. So if that's something that's holding you back, honestly, people don't care. If anything, I got more comments and engagement on my YouTube videos because of my braces. I definitely think they made me look younger, which has pros and cons. The financial commitment is obviously a barrier for some people. So I'm going to tell you my experience in South Australia. I had to get private health. I was told if I didn't have private health, it was going to cost me like $30,000 for the hospital stay after the surgery. So that's not really an option. Whereas if you have private health insurance, it's just the $500 excess. I didn't have private health before I started my private health and I had to have that for a year before the surgery. So we kind of based my surgery date off of when my private health started and when that benefit would kick in. All up, it ended up costing me about $15,000 for everything, 15,000 Australian dollars. That includes all orthodontics, that included the hospital stay, that included all of my appointments with my surgeon, then of course the actual surgery. So I mean, that is huge, but it was broken up a little bit over the course of probably a year and a half, 2 years. That's how long it took me to go through everything. There weren't really any hidden costs. My oral surgeon was pretty upfront with me with how much everything would cost, what date payments were due, all of that. And spoiler alert, but I am so happy with my results. I do not regret it at all. It was worth every penny spent. So let's talk about the surgery itself. I had double jaw surgery, which means both jaws were being operated on. It is an option to only have surgery on one of your jaws, which just depends on your personal situation and whether one of your jaws is in the right place or neither of them are. So what I was told was if you were having single jaw surgery, you would stay in the hospital 1 night. If you're having double jaw surgery, you would stay in the hospital 2 nights. So double jaw, I was there for 2 nights. Everything was pretty straightforward. I wasn't really scared about the surgery, and I wasn't really too worried about the pain going into it. It wasn't until I actually got to the hospital and was kind of like, oh, this is really happening, that I started to get a little bit anxious about it. But I mean, everything happened so quickly. You are in the hospital, you're checked in, and then you're asleep. And then you wake up and the surgery is done. So the process, very straightforward, very easy. I woke up, was in the hospital for a couple of days. They give you all the pain meds you need. So at that point, I was just basically, they were knocking me out. I spent most of the time in the hospital sleeping, which is what you want, because sleep is when your body is going to repair. And obviously after surgery, your body has a lot to repair. So during this time, just sleep as much as possible. And the pain is pretty easy to control if you stay on top of your medication and taking it when and how your doctor has prescribed it to you. In the hospital, like I said, I wasn't doing a lot. I was actually going into it, I thought I was going to have a liquid diet for 8 weeks, but my surgeon told me that it was just a soft food diet. So anything like avocado, like soft eggs, that sort of thing, I still could eat basically immediately after surgery. Now, I will say eating is very difficult. You wake up and your face is so numb, and it's numb for a long time. They didn't wire my jaw shut. I think jaw surgery has moved away from that. I know that used to be something that they did in the past, but I had elastics. I had basically little hooks on some of my brackets on my braces. And so I had elastics that were kind of keeping everything shut for the most part. They could open like a little bit, and that was kind of how I was eating. Eating was so ridiculous at that time because I couldn't feel my lips. I couldn't feel my chin. You're not supposed to drink from a straw. So I was kind of trying to like sip everything off of a spoon, and it would just go down my face. Couldn't even feel it. I would just be spilling everywhere. Again, at the time I was just kind of laughing about it, but it was a struggle. And it really is important to make sure you are eating enough during recovery, and especially eating enough protein, because your body is using extra energy trying to heal you, and it needs the raw building blocks from protein in order to repair everything, to repair your bones, to repair your tissue. Not eating really isn't an option. You have to force feed yourself even if you're not hungry. Now we're going to take a quick break to go to my segment called The Sip with Sodii, where I answer one of your questions from the last episode. This segment is sponsored by Sodii's Everyday Hydration Salts. Electrolytes with zero sugar, zero nasties, and the right electrolyte balance that you need. Every podcast episode, I am choosing a question from the last episode and I'm answering it. And along with that, whoever's question I answer, they're going to get a free box of Sodii's Everyday Hydration Salts. So if you want to be selected for the next video, and electrolytes are going to be something that I talk about in today's video that are so important for recovery, leave a question down below with the hashtag #TheSipWithSodii. Today's question is about a weight loss stall. Miss Coffee for You Too said, my weight loss is stalled. This has led me to try intermittent fasting. Is it working, you ask? No. Basically, she said she's been stuck for the last 3 months. She needs to lose another 12 pounds though. She had success cutting down carbohydrates. She's tried metformin, she's tried Ozempic. Those didn't work for her. So she wants to know, how do you get enough protein, greens, and fats required at each meal without overeating? Now, first off, that's amazing. You are so close to your goal weight. 12 pounds is very close. And the reality is, as you get closer to your goal weight, it becomes harder to lose weight. Now, if you've been restricting calories at all, this can slow down your metabolism. And this is why people get stuck in that diet cycle where they restrict calories, they see some results, they lose weight, and then they plateau. And in order to continue losing, they have to restrict calories further. This is what we want to avoid. And by getting enough protein at your meals, by getting enough healthy fat at your meals, and by being smart about carbs, you can lose weight and still keep your metabolism healthy. Because when you restrict calories too much for too long, your body adapts to how many calories you're eating. So if you're eating 1,200 calories a day, your body realizes that that's all it's getting in a day, and it cuts back on processes that aren't essential. That's why chronic dieters will experience hair loss, brittle nails. That's why they'll have low energy. That's why they'll be cold, their metabolism is essentially slowing down in order to not be putting out as much energy because it realizes that not that much is coming in. So my first suggestion would be to stop counting calories and stop worrying about overeating at your meals. As long as you are eating mainly whole foods, as long as you have a good protein source at your meals, 30 to 50 grams of protein, as long as the rest of your plate is made up of whole foods and you have enough healthy fat, avocado, olives, olive oil, keep the skin on your chicken, keep the skin on your fish, keep the fat on your beef. You're gonna be eating enough to keep yourself full in between meals, but not overeating. And the protein component is key here. Now, if you have been restricting calories and your metabolism has slowed down because of this, you might gain a couple pounds initially as your metabolism speeds back up. Stick with it, follow this framework, your metabolism will speed back up, and then keep eating this way. Don't count calories, don't weigh anything, just make sure you're eating all whole foods, like I said, focus on protein and fat, and the results will come. Now, with intermittent fasting, it's not for everyone, and it can be problematic for women, especially if we end up over fasting, because when we're fasting too much, we're not eating enough. And this leads to the same problem where our metabolism slows down. So I'd focus less on the intermittent fasting part of this. A 12 to 16 hour window works well for most people, but just try to eat 2 to 3 good meals per day with that 30 to 50 grams of protein. If you do this, you'll spend a large portion of the day in a fasted state, but you'll still be eating enough. I hope that answered your question, and congratulations for being selected this month. I hope you enjoy your everyday hydration salts. Now I want to talk about some of the tools I swore by, because let me tell you, it was no walk in the park. Like I said, going into the surgery, I wasn't that scared, I wasn't that worried about it, but it is pretty full on, because beyond just not being able to eat properly, if you don't stay on top of your pain meds, it is very painful and you are so puffy. Now, one thing that happened to me, and this was probably the worst of it for me. So I stayed in the hospital 2 nights. Day 3, I go home, to my friend's house. I was staying with her and I was taking my pain meds, but I wasn't eating enough. And I felt so sick. I remember sitting there, not even in pain. Well, I guess I was sort of in and out of pain because I was taking my pain meds, but I wasn't eating enough. I was feeling nauseous. I was vomiting. And then obviously the pain meds were coming out of my system. So then, it was just a really bad day. So like I said, making sure you're eating enough, so important. But after that day, Day 4 is when they say you're the most swollen, and that was probably true for me. I'll put a picture up on the screen. It was actually really funny. I remember just laughing at myself, and I was filming just like silly TikToks, and I don't know. There wasn't really anything else I could do because I was just basically sitting on the couch all day. A few things I swear by for my recovery. So first off, when it comes to food, there are a lot of protein shakes, meal replacement shakes out there. You're gonna have to rely on these, but so many of them have bad ingredients, and just bad ingredients that are going to make your recovery harder. They're gonna cause inflammation in ways you shouldn't be inflamed because you're recovering from surgery. So some inflammation is needed, but you don't want to be inflamed from all these weird ingredients. You don't need the sugar from these shakes when you're just sitting down and don't need that. So I did a lot of research beforehand because that was something I was very worried about. Being a nutritionist who eats mainly whole food, who prioritizes protein, that is a huge part of my life. I was looking at some of these shakes and going, oh my God, these are terrible. The one that I ended up using and absolutely loving was from a company called Health Code, and they have 2 meal replacement shakes. Now, these shakes are high in protein, they're high in healthy fat, they have a long list of good ingredients, no junk, no added unnecessary sugar, nothing weird. They taste pretty good, and they allow you to get a lot of energy in, which is something that you need. So each shake, I believe, is 400 calories, and I believe 30, maybe 28 grams of protein, which is pretty good. I would try to have at least 2, maybe 3 of these a day, on top of having some scrambled eggs, some avocado, some other soft food. But honestly, eating was very difficult, and I was able to drink these shakes. Like I said, get the energy in that was going to keep me from being nauseous, that was going to actually help with my recovery. So highly recommend those shakes. I believe they're an American company. Well, they are an American company. They do have an Australian store, so I was able to get them pretty easily. I'm pretty sure they gave me a code for 20% off at one point. That might be Health Coach Kate or Kate 15 or Kate 20. I'll put that in the description down below so that you can use that if you decide to try them. But I love these. They tasted pretty good. There's a chocolate and a vanilla one. Chocolate was probably my favorite, but both were good. The next thing I absolutely swear by is using an ice roller for swelling. The first couple days you have the ice packs on your face 24/7 to help with the swelling, but after that you don't have to have them on all the time, and you probably don't want to have them on all the time. But using an ice roller was just an easy way to kind of reduce the swelling, and I used this for a long time after the surgery, because there would be days, months after the surgery, where I would wake up and feel very swollen, and this helped to reduce that swelling. So definitely worth getting an ice roller. You just keep this in the freezer, you take it out when you need it. A lot of them don't stay cold very long. I tried a couple. I'll again put the link to the one that I ended up using in the description box down below. And the other thing, which I absolutely swore by for recovery, was red light therapy. Now, this is something I have been using for years for things like muscle recovery, for things like skin health. Red light therapy is backed by thousands of clinical trials. If you've never heard of it before, it does seem a little bit woo-woo, but I can assure you it is backed by a lot of research. Basically, it's specific wavelengths of light that stimulate your mitochondria to create more energy. So your cells have more energy and they can heal better. So there's 2 main types of red light therapy. There's red light, and that's only goes surface level. So that can help with things like acne, that can help with things like bruising, that can help with wrinkles. Obviously that wasn't my priority here. My priority here was helping to heal my jaw. And then there's near infrared light, and that goes deeper into your skin, and that's what helps with like injuries, with muscle recovery, that sort of thing. So most devices nowadays do have both types, red light and near infrared light. And I would use my panel a couple times a day. You really only need to use it for about 20 minutes at a time. I would kind of just be sitting on the couch, shine it on one side, shine it on the other side. I know since I had my surgery, red light masks have become very popular, but from my research, these aren't effective as a good panel is. So this is the one that I have. It's from Loombox. Like you can see, you just turn it on and you keep it close to your skin. I would just sort of sit with it, holding it by my jaw. I swear this helped me recover faster. Obviously, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what helped with recovery, but what I can tell you is that I was cleared to eat basically everything by week 5, and my surgeon said I was recovering very quickly. So between that, between the ice roller, between actually getting proper nutrition through the health code, I don't know exactly what helped with that, probably some combination of all of it. But like I said, the science on red light therapy is there, and that was something I was very consistent with. Red light therapy devices can be a bit pricey, but they last for years and years. It's not just going to benefit you during your recovery. You can use them for so many other reasons. Like I said, for skin, for muscle, for hair growth. There's so many benefits. So this is something I think is worth investing into. It's not just going to help you for the next year. It'll help you for a long time. The one I use is from Loombox. Again, I think I have a promo code for like a couple $100 off. I believe that particular device is, let me actually look up the price. It's about $600 US, not cheap by any means. I do have a promo code that gets you $260 off that. So that does bring it down significantly. I'll find that and put that in the description box down below too. Again, swear by that. I've been using red light therapy for probably 7-8 years and noticed a lot of benefits. But now let's talk about the results. Do I still have numbness? Did I get any nerve damage? Is there anything I'm not happy with? Short answer, extremely happy with the results. I can remember waking up from my surgery and I had my mouth closed with the elastics and I could just feel how my teeth were sitting with my tongue. And I was like, wow, that feels so much better already. Like I said, I was very, very numb at the start. I couldn't even smile. I probably have some clips that I'll put on the screen right now where I was trying to smile and it was a bit just like, honestly, it was really funny. I was laughing about it at the time. I can still laugh about it now. If you go back on my YouTube channel to the end of 2021, start of 2022, you can sort of see the progression of the swelling and the numbness wearing off and how I was able to move my mouth more. It was probably a couple of months before everything started to feel totally normal. The numbness went away. Most of it went away pretty quickly within a couple of weeks, but there was still some lingering. Now, I do have a little bit of numbness still, like in one spot on my chin. It's sort of just like pins and needles when I touch it, and on like one spot on my lip as well. So feeling not 100% back, but honestly, it's not even something I notice day to day. I actually only noticed it right now because I was talking about it and I'm like, oh, I can kind of feel like pins and needles in my chin. So that would not dissuade me to get the surgery if I heard that before. Honestly, something I never notice. There's like one spot on my chin where if I touch it, it's like just like a little bit of like a weird feeling. Like I don't really like it. It doesn't hurt. It's not painful, but it's just a little bit of like a ugh. So usually doesn't usually impact me. Maybe if I have a pimple on that spot and I'm like trying to like pinch it, I'm a bit like, but it's totally fine. My teeth, perfectly straight. After I got my braces off, they gave me retainers and it's been 5 years and I still wear those most nights. I can remember after I had my braces on in middle school, I did not wear my retainer and my teeth started to shift back a little bit. Nowhere like how they were before, but they weren't perfectly straight and that was something that bothered me as well. So this time around, I think for maybe the first 6 months or the first year, I was told by my orthodontist that I needed to wear them every single night. Then I went back for an appointment and he said I could go to every other night. And the last time I went, I think he said I could start just wearing them like once in a while type thing. I still try to wear them most nights because I'm like, I don't want to get in the habit of not wearing them. I don't want my teeth to move back. I've spent too much time, too much money, too much energy getting my teeth, my jaw the way it is. I'm not risking that. So I still wear my retainer. I don't find it annoying. It's just in my bathroom next to my toothbrush. Try to put it in every night. If one night I'm like, nah, I don't feel like it. If I'm sleeping somewhere else, if I'm on vacation, probably don't wear it as much. But at this point, it has been 5 years. Now, I've heard mixed things about getting the bar on the back of your teeth to hold them in place. I know for some people that actually doesn't work and they do still move a little bit. So I can't even remember being offered that as an option. If I was, I probably would have still preferred to get the retainers. Now, I do still have all the plates in my face. I know there is a small percentage of people who get them removed. For me, they haven't caused me any problems. They're not uncomfortable. My body didn't reject them or anything like that. So they're staying in and they'll probably stay in forever. I do sometimes have a little bit of a lisp and I don't know what part of all of this, what part of the surgery or the recovery caused that. I find that if I've been talking for a really long time, sometimes it comes out a little bit more. Honestly, not enough again to dissuade me from getting the surgery. Yeah, just something else to note. Other than that, I think my voice sounds pretty much the same. Other benefits I've noticed, like I said, can breathe easier through my nose, can close my jaw comfortably. I'm obviously happy with the look. From the front, I mean, I'll put up some pictures, but yeah, there was like a pretty big gap in between even when my jaw was closed, which I wasn't a fan of. My side profile did look more like I had an underbite, and I wasn't really happy with that. Now I'm pretty happy with everything. So overall, I have no regrets. The recovery, yes, it is difficult in a way, but if you know what to expect, if you're prepared, if you're fueling your body properly for recovery, if you're doing all the icing and everything your doctor said, I think I was on my pain meds for maybe, I'll have to look back at my past videos when I talk about this, but I don't think I was on the strong ones for any more than like a week or maybe 2 weeks. Then I switched over to rotating Panadol and ibuprofen, and probably after like 2.5 weeks, I think I was just using it once in a while. So you do start to feel better pretty quickly. At least I did. Just stay on top of things. Listen to your doctor. Not everyone is going to be given the same instructions. I know I was told I could have soft food right away, but someone else might be told they have to have only liquids in the start. Oh, bone broth. That was another thing that I was having a lot of, and that is great for collagen production, for recovery, for your bones as well. So highly recommend making some bone broth, buying some store-bought bone broth, lots of soup. That was another thing, of course, I was relying on. Hydration, that's another thing. In order to recover properly, your body needs to be getting electrolytes. So bone broth is great for electrolytes, but if you don't think you're getting enough, you need to be supplementing as well. And I put Sodii as the sponsor on today's video for a reason. I actually have a pack of their everyday hydration salts. This is their sample pack that has all the flavors. My go-tos are usually the salty pineapple. I do like the raspberry as well. Kiwi's good. If you want to try it out, I'll put the link to the samples in the description box down below, but I do have a code for 15% off. I'll put the link down below. Now, like I said, no added sugar, no weird ingredients. These actually have the electrolytes you need, one of which being sodium. If you're just having things like Gatorade and relying on that, that's not targeted at everyday use like Sodii is. I guess in summary, just be prepared. Know what you're gonna do for nutrition, know what you're gonna do for recovery, have a lot of TV shows that you plan on binging. I'm also someone who can't sit still for very long. So I think by like day 3 or 4 out of the hospital, I was already trying to like go on walks, try to walk around the house more. Rest is very important, but you don't want to be stationary for that long. Don't use it as an excuse to stay on the couch for weeks and weeks. Like get a little bit of movement in because that will help as well. Getting outside, vitamin D too, that can help. But anyways, if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments down below, either on Spotify or on YouTube. I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye guys.